Welcome to back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to be looking at Todd McCaffrey's book Dragonheart, Pern number 20 in the Anne McCaffrey Dragon Riders of Pern series. This follows right on the heels of Dragon's Blood. It runs parallel. There's still the whole disease that's affecting the dragons, but we're seeing it from a different Weir. We're looking now at Fort Weir, and the book starts basically with Fiona. And if you remember Fiona back, she is Lord Holder Benham's daughter at Fort at basically at Fort. So Kindon basically helps save her. She's the only one of her siblings to survive. And this picks up a few years later. She is at a hatching, but she's not in the stands. She's not on the ground. She's in the stands. And what happens is she gets chosen by a queen. And what we find is it's her learning to become a were-woman. And I know it sounds weird to say that, because it's not like turning into like a werewolf, but being third in line really is what she is, and ending up being second as it goes on. Todd has this interesting thing of wanting to go back in time. He did it in Dragon's Blood. We kept going back to after landing 47, 48 with the different characters trying to figure out what was wrong and help the future descendants basically figure out how to heal the dragons. Here, the Weirs are taking a lot of damage doing fighting Thread and the disease. They're losing dragons by the loads to disease. The formations are to the point where there's not enough dragons to fight Thread. So there's this little interesting idea that's put out there, of saying, well, why don't we send some people to back in time? And Cleor comes up with this idea, saying, we'll send them back, at least the injured ones and the ones that are too young to fly, and we'll have them heal there. They'll stay for 3 turns back then. They're going to go back 10 years in time, but they're only going to stay for 3 years. And then they're going to come back healthy 3 years or 3 days later in the current time. So that being said, they when they go back in time, they're in Fort Eigen, which was left behind and forgotten. And they basically take it over, and Fiona becomes the werewoman, and her gold dragon talent is basically it's 2 souls growing together, which I thought was kind of cool. It was kind of a cool notion of that. We also get we see the inner workings more of the Weir. Not just through the eyes of, like, Kindon, a harper, but actually through somebody who is in the line to partly run the Weir, and who is caught up in the politics of it all. And again, the first part of this book, I mean, it's a longer book. It's 538 pages. He probably could have did it in less, I think. but there are parts that are there, and that kind of need to be there. There's a little bit of confusion as to who is taking them back, because she's not originally supposed to go back in time, but she does, and we're not sure really if it's Tuella from Dragon's Blood that takes her back, or if it's an older Fiona taking her back, a Fiona from the future. But the one thing that does keep coming up with the Dragon Riders is that they're tired, and they're lethargic, and they forget things easy. And it comes down to the fact that they've timed things, and they are now in 2 different times at once. So it's not just that they're in present day, but they're also 10 turns back. So they're in those 2 times at the same time, and it stretches you. Just traveling between times is supposed to stretch the riders and make them tired and take a lot out of them. It doesn't take much, or if anything, out of the dragons, but it does out of the riders. And some riders might even be stretched to 3 different times at the same time, and they feel it worse than the rest of the other riders. The only one who doesn't seem to feel it is Taryn, and that's because she's not really in. She's not for one. She's not a dragon rider. She's never impressed, but she's also really. I guess the 2 times at once doesn't really affect her, maybe because she's not a dragon rider. Fiona says that she has felt that way since she basically impressed. And it kind of catches everybody off guard. And all these the younger werelings are the same. And the werelings that are a little bit older than them are feeling the same. And that's the only thing that they can put it down to, is that it's from being in 2 different times at the same time. Sort of like having a future self and a past self, but that future self is in the past, and the future, and you have to watch what you say, because Nuella comes back into this, and Umtal comes in, and they have and they make friends with traders, and they actually trade, and there's a weird that's like weird, because they don't really trade. So that being said, Fiona finds that she has to determine how much can she divulge and how much has to stay in her own head. Some things she does divulge to Nuella. There are some things that different people say, if this is in the future, I don't want to know. It'll come to pass. It'll be fine. Deal with it when it comes. But they have to determine at one point what is too much information to give. The only thing that I was kind of disappointed with in the book was sort of at the end, how it was like they're back in time, and then all of a sudden the last chapter, which is a page and a half, they're like, boom, there's the epilogue, and they're back now present, and that's a page and a half. So I think he could have probably sliced down some of the other bits to have more of a homecoming than there is in this one, and maybe the next book, because I know that's the 3rd of the 3 that he wrote by himself. Maybe that one will pick up the 2 different Weirs and the 2 different characters. I mean, there's going to be Kindon and Lorena, at Bendenweir, and then now we have Fiona at Fort Weir. So who's going to be the dominant character? Or are they going to be equals? We'll have to wait and see. And if you've read this, then you know, obviously, what it will be. Um, and if you know, comment below that you know, but no spoilers. That's the one thing. If you have if you have any memories, any thoughts on this series, leave the comments below. But yeah, just no spoilers for those of us who haven't read them yet. I'm going in chronological order. Still in the third pass. Working my way to the sixth pass, which is just back to pure Anne. But getting to that point. But I thought overall, it was a good book. I thought there were a lot of touching moments. Moments where Todd's trying to pull at your heartstrings a little. Didn't quite do that, but I felt that he was trying to do that. And appreciated the try. Fiona, when she gets back, is 16. So she's obviously she's 3 years older than she was when she left, which was the plan. So we'll see how the next book picks up. But I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. I thought it was good. The writing style, not up to, I think, Anne's level, but good enough to tell the story and to do a good job in telling the story. So yeah, 5 stars on Goodreads. And as always, I ask, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. You'll be doing me a favor. Turn on the notifications. That way you'll know when new videos come up. And as I said, leave comments below, whether it's, thoughts or, memories that you have of these books in this series. But again, no spoilers. And, or if you want to drop your Goodreads, name, and we can maybe hook up and see what each other's reading. While we're reading it, that would be cool too. Or if you have a suggestion for a book or a book series to read, leave that down below too. I love hearing from you. I comment back to everyone who comments. So with that, until next time, keep YouTube literate, and God bless.